is up, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to Tuffy Talk here, and we're really glad you chose to check in on this preview for the NC State versus UNC matchup, the Wolfpack versus the Tar Heels. And it's always a great rivalry game. I think it's one of the most underrated in the country, and we're going to get to see the next episode in this rivalry on Friday afternoon at 3:30 on ABC. Nationally televised game. I think it's just going to be a really fun game. You never know with rivalry games. And as a State fan, I can tell you, and I think every State fan knows, this has been a depressing season to end the season a little bit. But, man, it could really go right if you can get a win against Carolina. And I know Carolina fans, even this past weekend, they've been pretty depressed with how that game against Georgia Tech went. So both fans would like to end this season in the regular season with a win against the other. So we have Will here from Great Day Tar Heel, and Will, really glad to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we have, I mean, guys, we've got one of the matchups I'm excited to watch, and I think it's going to be the matchup, is going to be UNC's offense versus NC State's defense, right? UNC, as I mentioned in the last episode, in the ACC, they're number one in the ACC in scoring offense. They're averaging 38 points a game. NC State has the second-ranked defense in the ACC. They're allowing, on average, 18.7 points per game. The only team that's doing better is Florida State at 18.0 points per game. So, and then, I know to kind of contrast that, I think I'm looking here, as of this week going into the game, NC State on offense is ranked 9th. Averaging 24.9 points per game. And ironically, UNC is last here in defense, allowing 30.4 points per game. So that's where I'll come back to that matchup, UNC's offense versus NC State's defense. And I guess, Will, I'll start with you. What do you think about that matchup? What, like, different dynamics there between UNC's offense and NC State's defense? What do you think about that going in Friday?
I think it's always exciting when the strength of your team is going against the strength of the other team.
Yeah.
Because it gives you both a sense of confidence going into it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a big one. Josh Downs, personally, how the last Georgia Tech game ended, also plus being the son of a Wolfpack running back. He might have a little chip on his shoulder coming into it. But I'm excited. I've been excited for this matchup all year long. Especially,
it's a great game.
Offensively we looked pretty good last year. I know you guys had some injuries going into that game, but now we've been rolling on offense this year. And like you said, you have one of the best defenses in the nation. So, it's kind of hard to predict how it'll shake out. I'm sure there'll be some big tackles for loss by NC State, and I'm sure there'll be some big deep balls hit by UNC. I guess it's just going to come down to who can take care of the ball and who can have more plays go the right way for their team.
Let me ask you this question. When UNC has been successful, what has happened to make them successful? And then at the same time, when UNC has struggled, I say that specifically on offense, mind you. So when UNC has been successful on offense, X has happened. What is X? Like, what has happened to make them successful? And then vice versa, when they are not playing well, what is it? What's the common denominator that's making them not play well? What is it that's keeping them from being successful?
I think when we can get a good run game going, it opens everything else up. But also, if you look at the Pitt game, the run game wasn't going, so you could see the kind of shit, all right, we're going to go ahead and air raid tonight, and we just passed the ball. And, the ability to get first downs and sustain drives is huge. You see, when you get behind the chains early in the series, like Georgia Tech, we 4 or 5 sacks in that game. And it's hard, a first and 10 becoming a second and 16, it's hard to get first downs that way. And it's hard to keep the ball that way. So,
what are the differences State fans can look into when they see Omari and Hampton versus George Pettaway at running back. You mentioned that seems to be the denominator of success or not having success for UNC's offense. And that seems to make sense because that means you're controlling the line of scrimmage, right? So that seems to make a lot of sense. But between those two running backs, how do they differ? What is different in their styles?
Coming into the season, I made a comparison that they're like a Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, where Martin Hampton out of Cleveland High School is just your big physical. I mean, the kid looks like a junior in college, coming into college. I mean, he's 6'2", 220. Run through the tackles. I would not want to get in his way. He started off the season returning kickoffs, which is frightening to think about. I would be grabbing ankles if I was in front of him. Pettaway is more of your quick change of pace guy. He was really good in the All-American game as a receiver. So I'm surprised his first catch wasn't until last night this season. And he's more of your the Panthers had smash and dash back in the day. It's kind of how they are.
Yeah. So, that's a good point there. I think for NC State defensively, I think an area of their team that has been, I can't say underrated at this point because they are number one in interceptions in ACC at this point, but I think their secondaries, when they're covering well, I think it allows our defensive line and linebackers to really get to the quarterback because I think Tyler Baker Williams for NC State has been one of your better defensive players in general at the nickel position, which will be interesting because he'll have to probably go up against Josh Downs a lot. And that'll be a good matchup. But I would say, as I mentioned earlier, State's run defense has been pretty solid. They don't generate a lot of sacks, but I think lately the key to NC State's success has been just, to be honest, just blitzing like the fire out of the opposing offense. I mean, they're sending all kinds of blitzes, corner blitzes, safety, Tanner Ingle coming flying down from the safety position. Obviously, you got Drake Thomas, Peyton Wilson, and Isaiah Moore at linebacker. I think State's going to need to blitz a lot and put a lot of faith in their secondary to win this game, in my opinion. And yeah, that's just my thoughts there. I mean, you're talking about UNC's offense versus State's defense. I just can't see us winning this game if we let Drake May have 3 seconds back there. I think they're going to need to blitz. What do you think about that, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. And, obviously pressure makes any quarterback uncomfortable. We did it to Sam Hartman. We were very successful at it that game, and he threw 3 interceptions. So I think that's really key against any quarterback. But yeah, I think it's going to be slowing down the UNC offense. I don't think you're going to stop them, obviously. But, if you can hold them under 24 points, I mean, Georgia Tech did it. They held them to 21 or 17. But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to hold the UNC offense to under 24 points if State wants any shot to win.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's going to be tough because that falls right somewhat in between the averages, right? Carolina's averaging on offense 38 points a game, and State is allowing on average 19 points per game, somewhere in the 18.7 to be exact. So, they're going to have to hold Carolina to under 30, in my opinion, or under 24 as little as possible.
At least, yeah.
Because that's the other side of it, which we can get to now, is State has had their top 2 quarterbacks injured as of the Louisville game. Jared Devin Leary's out for the season, and people thought he may be like a dark horse Heisman candidate. I didn't really think that necessarily, but he had the offense struggled early on. Wasn't a lot of success from the deep ball. He gets injured. He's done for the season. You have to go into that Florida State game. It's Jack Chambers, the incoming graduate quarterback from Charleston Southern, versus MJ Morris, who was the true freshman at quarterback, and it ended up being MJ coming out of that game looking like the starter. And plays really well up until this Boston College game, and he has his first freshman game, and he didn't play against Louisville because he's hurt. So I think State's going to need to build off of, to be personal, I think they're going to need to build off what Ben Finley was doing, Michael, and I don't know if you think about that. If they have to go with Ben Finley or Jack Chambers, I think they need to ride with Ben Finley. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say at this point. They started Chambers for 2 drives and put Ben Finley in. I feel like they'll do something similar, and just whatever quarterback looks better on those 2 drives, that's who they'll stick with the rest of the game.
Yeah,
I do think Finley probably gives you a better chance just because he's a better passer than Chambers. But
here's my thought that I could see it going Jack Chambers potentially is that we mentioned, UNC being great on offense and they've struggled defensively, but the area that they've seemed to struggle the most at is in the rushing defense, and I think that is where Jack Chambers. Now they do actually take that back. Actually, they are last in the ACC in passing defense as well. But I feel like State, even if they don't have a quarterback, they do have the ability to run the ball. And that's like my only glimmer of hope. I mean, I'm not saying State's going to win this game. I don't foresee that. I'm not even going to bet on that happening at this point. But I think the fact that State can run the ball pretty well, pretty decently, especially now that Michael Allen has emerged, that is my glimmer of hope. I guess you mentioned, Will, guys like I think Noah Taylor out, Desmond Evans is out, guys, your defensive line. Where have the bright spots been on UNC's defensive front, or the front 7?
Cedric Gray and Power Eccles have been really fun to watch this year. Both probably top 5 in the ACC in tackles. Coming into this week, I think Cedric Gray led the nation in individual tackles on the season. They've been fun, and really, it's a guy I'm really happy to see, not in the front 7, but Storm Duck has started to look like his freshman year self again. He's PFF All-American as a freshman and all-name team as a freshman. Then he's hurt next 2 years. Don't really see much out of him. But now, he had a pick in the Georgia Tech game. He's made some huge deflections. So he's started to look more like himself, which has been nice to see. And then on the defensive line, you see the guys take the field. They look like first-round draft picks. Miles Murphy's started to come on pretty strong.
He's a good player.
Javari Ritzy he's a monster to watch.
Javari Ritzy,
he's
that's a guy State recruited too.
He ran he's a defensive tackle, runs a 200-yard dash in high school. Like, ran cross country in high school.
That's crazy.
He's just a freak of nature. He started to make some good plays in the defensive backfield too. So he's getting some pressure in the last game. And then Kamen Rucker, he's been the kind of played both Noah Taylor and Desmond Evans in spots, and he's managed to get pressure.
Is Vahasek still there?
He's out for the year too.
He's out for the year too. Okay, because I remember he had a pretty good game against State last year.
Yeah, he's the third D lineman that's out for the season. So
yeah. Well, that's some key injuries there. But you're right. Miles Murphy is for a defensive lineman, he's probably the one I would be watching the most for a defensive lineman. I mean, this guy has impressed me. But then you mentioned a couple guys earlier that aren't defensive linemen, and Power Eccles and Storm Duck. Is Duck a corner? Yep. I think, and like Power Eccles, he is safety.
He's the other interior linebacker, 23.
Linebacker, okay. Those guys Chambers I think are really, really nice players for Carolina. So I think for State fans, you watch those guys along with Miles Murphy. I think that'll be telling to see what Carolina does, in my opinion. But those are really good players there. So Will, I'm going to ask you this, and then Michael will ask you this too. And it'll be UNC, and then for Will, you can answer on UNC's behalf, and Michael for State's. But UNC has to do what to win this game on Friday? I mean, besides score more points, obviously. Duh, that's a duh.
Right, so I went to
what do they have to do unit-wise, performance-wise?
I went to the NC State-Texas Tech game early in the year, and my quick halftime assessment of NC State was the offense wasn't going to win them games every week. The defense is good enough to win games every week, but what will make or break their season is teams' abilities to get first down and sustain drives. You see that State is amazing on special teams, and it's game changing. If you get the ball at the 20, 25 and you can't get a first down, that's dangerous for your team, because State will, they'll play the field position game all game long, and just before you know it, they're receiving punts at the 50, and then they need 2 first downs and they're in Chris Dunn's field goal range. So for UNC to win, they have to sustain drives. Even if you don't score every drive, get some first downs. You don't want to give State a short field, because they've shown they can win the field goal game and they can win games. Have they won without scoring touchdowns this season? I mean,
I think I don't know if they scored a touchdown this game, but that Florida State game was, I can't remember, that score was 19-17.
We scored 1 touchdown. I think the rest were
field goals. I think he had 4 field goals after that. That was almost entirely Chris Dunn. It was almost like, you can't call it the Chris Dunn game, but that was like that was the game. Chris Dunn won. Chris Dunn won us that game, in my opinion.
And the Virginia Tech game, I think, kind of describes what I thought of NC State, because the offense wasn't doing much. Defense makes some huge tackles for loss, and all of a sudden on kickoffs, Virginia Tech can't catch the ball. They start to drop it, which builds more intensity, and you can just feel it. You feel the whole momentum changing after that second time Virginia Tech dropped the kickoff. They tried to give me a good birthday present, and they kind of choked it away. But,
hey, like I said, we were there, and I was like, I could not. When it went 21-3, I was like, this game's over. My brother, he left a little early that game, and man, I just don't think anybody saw that coming out of MJ Morris either. I can tell you, if I will say this, if the future is Drake May versus MJ Morris, that is going to be really fun for this rivalry and really fun for the ACC. I think both, especially Drake May, but both quarterbacks at this point have shown a lot of potential. Obviously Drake May more than MJ and much bigger sample size, but I think that is going to be really fun for both schools. So, Michael, let me ask you, what NC State has to do to win this game?
I think they're going to have to steal possession, multiple possessions. Whether that's, interceptions, which we've been very good on. UNC is going to throw the ball a lot, so there probably will be some opportunities for that, or, a kick return or a punt return for a touchdown. We haven't had one of those this year. Just because, if you get into where UNC's scoring on multiple drives in a row, our offense just isn't going to keep up. So you're going to have to steal possession or touchdown somewhere from the defense or from special teams.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think State will need to win the turnover battle by maybe a +2.
Yeah, that's
I don't know
thinking.
if I think +1, depending on what you get from your offense and rushing the ball. But I think State's going to need to. I think to feel pretty good, I think State needs to get that +2 turnover margin or special teams play, like you're talking about, Michael, to feel like you can win this game. Because, here's how I feel. I'm a realist. I think I don't know how you can bet on NC State winning this game, especially when you're down to QB3, QB4.
Georgia Tech was on QB3 and 4.
But that's the thing. So it's like, I saw that too. It's like, that's a glimmer of hope. And it's a rivalry game. You never know. Heck, if it is Ben Finley, he played against UNC a couple of years ago. He didn't look so bad. His brother is Ryan Finley.
Was he the quarterback that threw the touchdown that the tight end deflected into UNC's hands for interception?
Yeah.
Was that him?
He should have had 2.
I don't remember.
In 2020, he should have had 2 touchdowns, and he should have had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception against UNC. He ended up with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions because it bounced off. What's his face? Dylan Parham hit him in the hands. And in the end zone.
So
before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightland's Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
Yeah, so Finley's played against UNC at UNC. The atmosphere will not be too much for him, in my opinion. But I just can't pick State right now to win this game at the way it's been going. Now, I will say if for somehow I don't think they've said MJ Morris is out for the season, but he didn't play against Louisville. Yeah. Somehow he can come back, then I think that totally changes things for State. But particularly that's another layer of being able to run the ball, which is, again, where I go back to maybe you do go with Jack Chambers more in this game because he can run the ball. But I do think State's going to turnover battle. I just think you're going to have to take away some possessions from the Carolina offense. I think State, to be honest, State's going to need to slow down their offense, right? I think they're going to need to try to keep UNC's offense off the field as much as possible. So in that regard, I do think it plays into NC State's favor. I just think UNC's offense is dynamic, and I just think State has not had much success as a quarterback position. So I think there are things that go NC State's way as far as needing to slow down the ball. Well, State wants to do that anyways. They want to run the ball in this game probably because Carolina struggles in that regard. But, I just think State does have a good defense. I just think Carolina's offense is dynamic. And let me ask you this, Will. We haven't really talked a lot about this player, but Josh Downs he's had one of the best back-to-back seasons for receiver in ACC's had in a while. What is his stat line? He's still been getting his numbers, his stats every game, even though, how did he do against Georgia Tech? Did he play well that game?
At all. It was probably his worst game of his college career.
So I wonder if it partly is a matter of take away Josh Downs as much as you can kind of thing.
They were doubling him for sure. I mean, of course, probably not a bad idea to do that because he was coming off of the ACC record for most catches in a 3 consecutive game span.
He's the real deal, man. He's a pro. He's a pro.
But he only had 3 catches for 31 yards, and 25 of it was on one play. Mm-hmm. Of course, there was the last play of the game that didn't work out in his favor.
Wide open, dropped the touchdown, which would have won the game.
I wonder if he deactivated all of his social media since then. I'm wondering if that's a
really. Did he really?
Or if it's idiot UNC fans being hard on him. Hopefully not. But I mean, he's a threat every time he's on the field. He's so hard to guard 1-on-1, and he's just change of direction coming out of breaks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I would never want to guard him 1-on-1.
He's a pro. Like I said, he's a pro. He's going to be a slot receiver that is going to terrorize NFL defenders for a long time. He's a really good player. I mean, he just is. So I was just curious. It sounds like the strategy might be there to double up. Where is Josh Downs? Clue number 1 for the defense and get pressure on Drake May as much as you can.
And they played him more outside against Georgia Tech than I think they have all season too, which makes it hard to double. You don't want to double the outside receiver because that leaves the middle wide open, especially with the tight ends UNC has. So it's definitely a chess match, but
yeah, I think UNC is going to. Here's one thing out there I've noticed lately that I've seen opposing offenses do to NC State and they've had some success with. I think you should watch out to see UNC try to pick on particularly not just our corners, but I think you should watch them pick on Derek Pitts. I've seen a lot of opposing offenses pick on Pitts, like number 24. It seems like every game recently he's gotten a PI called against him or two. And that obviously hurts when you're trying to sustain drives. I think you should watch out for that. There was a play Louisville had against Cheyenne Battle, number 25 on our team. He's the other starting corner. Try to, again, hit a bad tackle. But I think you're going to see Carolina try to pick on Pitts personally. I think you're going to see that a little bit. But yeah, so I'm going to get in some predictions here, guys. And I'll start with Will. What do you think is going to be the score of this game? What do you think is going to be the result, man?
Whew. I would have felt a lot better answering this before Saturday.
Which I think makes it interesting, right?
As someone who sat through Russell Wilson's Hail Mary into the corner, and then a couple years later, Giovanni Bernard's punt return.
The 2-yard Hail Mary, you mean,
Yeah.
right? The 2-yard Hail Mary, yeah.
You know,
and Gio, oh my gosh, I still remember where I was when that happened.
23rd birthday. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 35-30 UNC.
All right, 35-30 UNC. Did we even know what the opening line is for this game?
6.5 UNC favorites.
6.5. Okay, so that's right there. That's not bad.
Hey,
so 5 touchdown game from UNC. 30 points. If they get 30 points, I actually would like our chances. I actually would like our chances if they gets 30.
Yeah.
So, but hey, man, 35-30. That's Will's score from Great Day Tar Heel. Michael, what are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, this one's so hard. Just obviously, like Will said, after last week, if State can kind of watch that tape and figure out what Georgia Tech did to slow down UNC's offense, which I think we'll be able to do somewhat anyways, just being probably top 1 or 2 defenses that UNC's faced all season. But it's like it's strength on strength and weakness on weakness. But I don't know. I don't really feel confident enough in our quarterback position to truly think we have a good shot or expect us to win here. Like I said, I mean, I think State will need a defensive touchdown or special teams touchdown or some fluky play that really carries momentum over to our side and puts points on the board without our offense having to do it, which, that's not exactly something you want to rely on to win a game. I'll probably go UNC 35, State 20.
Yeah, that seems about right, somewhere in there. The more we've talked this through, the more I'm not trying to be a homer here. I do think there are more variables here that actually do play in NC State's favor. The more I think it through, the more I can see things naturally fit the way NC State wants to run their game script at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is one of the big complaints about Tim Beck that he throws too many screens?
No, I don't even think it's that. I think it is. Well, Michael, you go ahead, Michael.
He definitely did with Leary because the quarterback run game is a heavy part of his offense, but Leary doesn't really have that mobility. So I think he used screens a lot as a way to an extension of the running game, get the ball out quick to the receiver or running back. Because
people complain Chiswick never blitzes, and literally every heavy blitz we ran against Georgia Tech, they threw a screen that play. So I'm like, if screens are his thing, that might be a good timing.
Might work out. Him. Hey, you never know. That's another factor. If you're saying that, I have not noticed that.
Killed us.
Yeah, maybe it naturally works out in his favor. But the reason why I think people don't like, I don't say don't like, I think some people have a problem with Tim Beck at times is because I think it's the way he calls plays. I don't think it's just screens. I think it's things like, okay, I don't think State's creative enough. And I don't mean they need to do trick plays. I think it's just like, it just seems at times like there's like vanilla and then there's vanilla sprinkles. Like it's not like it's just let's just I don't know. There's a screenplay.
He uses the tight ends a lot, which doesn't make sense because our tight ends outside of Penix aren't great.
Well, there's Chris Tootle, but where's Chris Tootle been, right? So he's been a big red zone threat up until like halfway through the season, and then he just vanished. But my thing is to be like, you can almost guarantee, I can tell you right now, 80%, I would say 70-80% of the plays on first down are run plays. Just go ahead and assume it's a run play on first down, and that's just a little bit too predictable. the other part of it is like on third downs, if it's like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, let's throw a screen play. Let's play. Let's do like a little 3-yard play and try to get our guy in space to make a play for another 10 yards or 7 yards. Like that's not a recipe for like if you need to get to the first down mark, then draw a play that's going to get you there.
Right.
Like don't settle for like a conservative play. That's the probability you're going to get that converted is very low, in my opinion. I just think he does that kind of stuff too much, and it's probably more conservative play calling. I would have thought they would have really opened it up. It wasn't until halfway through the season that State really started connecting on the deep balls either. I mean, they tried it a little bit with Leary, but he would overthrow them majority of the time, and it didn't seem like they ever did it enough.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a guy who's like, Dave Dorn, when Ike Ekwonu was getting drafted last year to the Panthers, he got interviewed and he's like, yeah, I think we had the greatest quarterback in the country. And then if that's the case, well, why are we not
using him,
doing more exciting plays with him throwing the ball? I just didn't. I know Dave Dorn has always wanted to be a balanced offensive attack. If you generally look at his plays, run or pass, it's ballpark 50-50 plus or minus 10% most of the time. Yeah. I just think Tim Beck has just not been creative enough. I think there's been too many conservative play calls. I think they're play calls that are too predictable. And they're not taking enough shots, in my opinion. I just don't think they're going to take enough shots. I think they actually kind of have had more success with MJ Morris throwing the ball deep than Devin Leary. But that's just my soapbox moment there since you asked me. But going back to my prediction for the game, I don't see State getting the win, but I do think there's a lot of things that play in the State's favor naturally. The more we talk about it, I think State's going to want to slow the ball down and hold UNC's offense off the field as long as they can, which would help your 3rd or 4th string quarterback. State's probably going to want to run the ball, which is UNC has struggled in consistently in the last few years, and there's nothing different this year, so to speak. So I think you're going to see State try to run the ball, which, again, drains the clock down and keeps your offense off the field, but you have to convert first downs. So there's that. You mentioned I didn't even take into consideration the screen play against Chiswick's defenses. Chris Dunn has been a good kicker, but I just think UNC's offense, I mean, if you're a Carolina fan, you feel so bad about UNC's defense. I just think their offense has just been able to cover it up, right? You mentioned they've won so many games by less than a touchdown points wise, right? Yeah. So I just don't think there's going to be anything different this game. I don't. Maybe State can get the +2 turnover margin. They are number 1 in the ACC in interceptions, and but yeah, I think it's going to be like a 34-20 kind of game, 34-18, 30-18 kind of score, UNC's favor. That's just what I think is going to happen. But again, crazier things have happened. Like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this a little bit too before we sign off here. What were your thoughts about that way that game ended last year? Well, I know you probably only like thinking about it, but like, I think State fans and Carolina fans were like, holy cow, what just happened?
That was pretty much it. It was like, no, this isn't really happening, right? And then the first touchdown happened. It's like, okay, whatever, we'll get the onside kick back. It's like, you'd watched it roll, like you didn't even try to get it when that player's now at Oklahoma. And then there was the long pass, the pass interference was called on. Yep. And I'm like, wasn't the pass thrown like 20 yards out of bounds? Anyway, and then, of course, everyone, Tony Grimes got so much hate on that, but I think the safety just didn't rotate over because the picture that you've seen a million times of Cam Kelly getting trucked in the end zone.
Yes.
It was just like, that really just happened.
I will say, dude, I'm not a big Tony Grimes fan. I think there's better players on the UNC's defense than Tony Grimes.
It's really weird because, he got so much hype coming in, and I went to the spring game going into last season, and like every time in coverage, he was like glued to the guy he was guarding. And I wonder if it's like last year was more, there was questions within the scheme, because that one was a blown coverage. There's no way your best receiver should be running down the sidelines wide open like that.
Oh, yeah, that was
But
blown. Yeah.
But there are so many times like this year, the big complaint is, why are you 8 yards off and it's 3rd and 4? Like, you trust them to get in someone's face and just lock them up. So it's, I'm not at practices. I wish I could be, but I am curious what's kind of happened there in the secondary, especially with him.
Well, and again, to be positive, I do think, I said I'm not a big Tony Grimes fan. I do think Power Eccles and Miles Murphy and Storm Duck, I think those are 3 of your better players on defense that
watch Power Eccles and Cedric Gray. They are fun linebackers to watch.
Cedric Gray too. Yep.
2 Charlotte guys.
But I just that, my whole point to bring up that game last year, which we didn't really talk about it much, is it's last year, but I think it's interesting. Neither fan base feels very good about their team after their previous weekend of UNC losing to Georgia Tech and State losing to Louisville. I think UNC is probably a little bit more confused at what happened. I think State fans know what happened. We just we didn't have a quarterback. So
we know what's wrong. We just can't fix it.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. But if again, if somehow State can get MJ back, if he's not already done for the season, maybe things. But I just think if you're going to roll with Ben Finley or Jack Chambers, it's just not a recipe for success, and or it's just not going to happen. I just don't. If it does, I would be surprised. I'd be very surprised, and I think most people would. So, but it's going to be an exciting game. I cannot wait to watch it. I think it's just going to be exciting because we know anything can happen at this game. It has proven to be that kind of game and rivalry. So, but for all the fans watching, it'll be an ABC at 3:30 game kickoff in Chapel Hill. It'll be. I tell you what, man. I feel like every year, I think every year it should be Carolina should wear all blue and State should wear all red. It just looks so good. Even in basketball or whatever sport, red versus blue, it should always be that way. But you'll see that, guys. It'll be red versus blue, Wolfpack versus the Tar Heels, NC State versus UNC. ABC 3:30 on Friday, not Saturday, Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. This will be a great rivalry game on the ABC national televised game. But I really want to thank Will from Great Day Tar Heel to be on here previewing this matchup. And Will, where can fans find you?
On Twitter and Instagram at Great Day Tar Heel. And then one last thing, I want to congratulate State's women's cross country team for their national title, and then shout out to UNC's field hockey team on theirs today. So 2 more national titles in the ACC and on Tobacco Road. So. See,
guys, that's what I'm talking about. He's a sensible Carolina fan. They're one of the few out there. So, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, Will's been a really good guy to get to talk some junk with on Twitter and all that. But very fair, and make sure for the State fans to go out and follow him. Really good perspective from the other side of the rivalry. But again, guys, we'll see you guys on Friday. Be sure to like and subscribe this YouTube channel here at Tuffy Talk. It really helps us get out to other NC State fans and build that community that we have here and keeps it growing. And, you can find us on iHeartRadio and Spotify and all sorts of places, Twitter. But be sure to like and subscribe, guys. It helps us out. And we'll see you guys Friday. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. And as always, go Pack.